feel like a zero? Oh, it happens. Sometimes we just get this feeling about ourselves. Maybe we have a setback, or maybe it's just we didn't get enough rest. So many reasons. Comparison syndrome, that we can sometimes feel like we are a zero. And so, today in this episode, I want to give you three ways to help move yourself beyond that thinking and past that, oh, I'm a zero, and into seeing yourself in a really powerful way so that you can live into your life's purpose. Before we dive into today's episode, I also wanted to encourage you and invite you to check out julieholly.com. Over there, you can find all things investing, all things podcast, and the book club information. Currently, we are entering into week 3 of the Four Agreements book club. So there are only 3 more weeks because it's a 5-week book club. So when you head to julieholly.com, make sure if you're looking to learn about real estate investing, there are resources there you can download that will help bring you up to speed on the terminology and the how to's. And if you're looking for your next really great read, download the best books reading list. It is fantastic and so many great books to choose from. All right, let's dive into today's episode. At different points, I have definitely felt like a zero. And I have chalked this up to human nature, but sometimes we stack the cards against ourselves, believe it or not. I decided to create this episode specifically because I received a message from a good friend of mine. And she had a really tough day in her role as mom. And sometimes, as moms, sometimes we feel like zeros. And my husband, sometimes as a dad, he feels like a zero. And that's just part of the role and the responsibility. But guess what? There are other times that we feel like zeros. For example, when I first started mountain biking, I felt like a zero, complete zero, because I couldn't keep up with everybody. I didn't have the skills, the endurance, the technique, and I just constantly felt like I was holding up the group. I felt like a zero. But I'm going to share with you right now one of the tips as a little bonus, and that is that the team that I was riding with, they didn't make me feel like a zero. Let me provide a little bit of clarity here. It wasn't that the people I was riding with made me feel like a zero. It's that I internally felt like a zero. I wanted to show up as more. I wanted to do more, and I wasn't able to do more. And so I felt like a zero. Another time I have felt like a zero even more recently is something that a lot of people don't want to admit, and that is the comparison syndrome. When we start comparing ourselves to, oh wow, look what they just accomplished and look how they're doing, and we're looking at the results of other people's hard work and efforts, then we can start comparing ourselves and our efforts, and we can start thinking that maybe we're a zero. I definitely did this because I've seen some of my friends, my peers, my colleagues, I've seen some people really just have some breakthrough moments. And yes, I'm super excited for them, obviously. But then I've done that comparison, and that comparison has left me feeling like a zero. In fact, that led to a little bit of a personal setback, which is really, really tragic, right? Because as long as we're living into our purpose, as long as we are putting out the effort and trying our best, we will have our breakthrough moment as well. It's not just for one person or a few people, it's not them and us, it's for everybody. But unfortunately, we start comparing ourselves to others so often. And if you're active on social media, it's even you're more susceptible to that comparison syndrome. Okay, so you end up feeling like a zero. Now what do you do now that you are feeling like you're a zero? As I was thinking about what has helped me move beyond feeling like a zero, I was thinking about the books that I have read. And remember, you can grab a book list off julieholly.com, the best books reading list. But one of the books I'm currently actively reading with the 5-week book club is the book called The Four Agreements. It's by Don Miguel Ruiz. or Ruiz, sorry. And anyhow, in his book, he has these four agreements that I think really lend themselves well to stepping beyond feeling like a zero. And the first agreement is that we are to be impeccable with our word. Now, it's not like the old fashioned, like, don't tell a lie or something like that. It's about being true to your word and understanding things. The next agreement is really important and lends off of the first agreement, and that is don't take anything personally. So often we look at others and we use that as a mirror and we're thinking, that's what we need to be looking like. Instead of saying, I need to look like myself and I need to look like the next best version of myself, we start comparing ourselves to something that we will never be. You will never be that other person. It's just impossible because you're you. Right? I'm me. You'll never be me because I'm me and you're you. And that's a really great thing. So when we talk about don't take anything personally, let everyone be their own person, and sometimes other people's messes reflect poorly on us. They come off prickly and grouchy, but that doesn't say something about us. That says something about where someone else is at. Now, the other two agreements, don't make any assumptions and always do your best, also lend themselves very well into stepping up out of being a zero. Because when we are not making an assumption, right, assuming that we know, say, if we're comparing our business to someone else's, well, wow, maybe they have all these fancy material things that we can actually see, but then again, maybe they're completely over leveraged and in debt and stressed out of their minds. You see, we make an assumption that everyone is doing things the way we're doing it, or in our finite mind, we make an assumption that how they are doing, about how they are going about doing things. So when we stop making those assumptions and stop projecting ourselves onto others and stop the comparison, we can start stepping out of being that, having that feeling of being a zero. When we always do our best, we will feel amazing. If you want to move beyond feeling like a zero, do your best. I always tell my kids that your actions are going to influence how you are feeling, right? And so a lot of times we tell people, hey, if you don't like how you feel, take the first step that is going to be that action step so that you're moving beyond into what you want and not stagnating right where you are. So taking action is really powerful. But if you're going to take action and just kind of do a half-hearted job, you're not going to feel great because you know you could do so much more. You're going to continue feeling like a zero if you're not doing your best. So, whatever it is that you are working on, do your best. If it's cleaning the toilet, do your best. If it's folding laundry, do your best. If it's weeding or mowing the lawn, do your best. If it is having a conversation that you really don't want to have, do your best. Because remember, how we do one thing is how we iterate and do other things. And so part of, stepping beyond feeling like a zero is always showing up as your best. Now, that was kind of like a huge bonus because by bringing up the four agreements, you actually got like three bonus ways of how to step beyond being a zero. And I hope that you take time to read that book. I do tell everyone, hey, I don't always agree with the world views and belief systems of the books that I read, but there's powerful truth that we can unlock and implement into our lives that will help us out in tremendous, powerful ways. So I highly recommend this book. I think it's only like $5 over on Amazon. Okay, the second way to step beyond feeling like a zero is to review your accomplishment board. So you don't have one. All right, there's your starting spot. This is a really powerful tool and vehicle to move beyond feeling like a zero. So you see, we have amnesia over all of our successes. And really, in time, we really start to allow our successes to fade and to just like drift away into nothingness. And unfortunately, the challenges that we had to overcome, those become the stars of our life. And so it's really important to have a reference point of the things that you have accomplished. I've spoken about this before on the podcast, and I'm going to encourage you now to, if you haven't already, start that achievement board for yourself. Now, it doesn't have to be an actual physical board necessarily. There are lots of ways. So do it your own way. Maybe it's a bunch of pictures on your phone or something. I'm not sure. You'll figure it out. But here's the heart of it. However, you go about it, what you want to do is you want to look back in time and you want to find all of your successes. Find the things that made you proud of yourself. Find the things that when you were finished, you knew I did my best and this was exceptional. Find the achievements that you had where maybe you simply crossed the finish line. I'll tell you, when I ran my first and only half marathon, when I crossed that finish line, I was falling apart really. In all reality, I mean, I wasn't feeling very good physically, but I crossed that finish line. And that was a huge achievement of mine. It was something that I had been thinking about and had on my bucket list for years. And I decided I have to get this done before I'm 30. It was some arbitrary thing, right? Apparently, after I was 30, I thought I couldn't do it. I'm not sure. But all that to say is that your achievement board isn't just going to be reflective of these big, wow, look what I did moments, but it's also going to be those moments where you might have stumbled or crawled across the finish line. Look back for those moments that make you feel proud of yourself and you feel that you accomplished something tremendous. Collect those and gather those. When you are starting to feel like a zero, that is proof of concept of who you are. It is evidence of what you are capable of, both your character, your mindset, your skills, your talents, everything is going to show up in this achievement collection that you are going to create. And when that zero starts setting into your mind, you can simply reference this and say, you know what? Hey, zero, look what I've done. And you need to have that proof, that evidence to yourself so that you can move beyond feeling like a zero. The final way to help step beyond feeling like a zero is very similar to the achievement board, but it is the encouragement album. All right, what do I mean by this? Um, Let me go back. When I was teaching, and I started teaching in the public schools when I was 22 years of age. And I remember a teacher telling me, always have a file where you put the special notes that mean something to you. If you put every note in the elementary years that a kid gives you, you could have like a whole warehouse full of notes, right? But you take the things that mean something to you that were given to you by other students, by colleagues, by families, whatever it is that is just encouraging to you. I was told put that in a file because you're going to have rainy days and you're going to need to be reminded of the good things that you have done and are doing within the school community. Well, I took that and I've applied that to just regular life. And it's something that you can do as well. It's super easy with technology as well. So, what can you do? Maybe you received a really awesome text message from a friend that encouraged you. Maybe somebody gave you a really amazing shout out on a social media platform. Maybe you received an email and it was an acceptance. Maybe you got something that you've been working for. I'm sorry, actually, that one would go onto the accomplishment board, right? But the encouragement one are words of affirmation and just times when people have noticed you and they have spoken those words of truth to you or communicated however they did. Maybe some celebrity person that you really admire tagged you in something and you're like, wow, that's so cool. Whatever it is, what you're going to do is capture a screenshot. You can also print it out if you want something physical and tangible. However, you do this, you're collecting all of these words of encouragement, you're putting them together, and now you have that outside evidence of how others see you, perceive you, what they admire about you, and how they appreciate you. So sometimes we need to be reminded that other people think really great things of us. We can let what I refer to as the peanut gallery get into our mind, and they can start to play mind games with us. We can start to believe these negative narratives that we tell ourselves instead of holding on to these words of affirmation and the encouragement from others. We oftentimes dismiss that, and the one loud voice overwhelms all of it. So you're going to make that collection of words of encouragement, or, right, just simply overarching encouragement and whatever that means to you from other people. These are three very simple, you can implement them right this second, tactics to help lift you up and push you out and beyond that feeling of being a zero. I cannot wait to hear how this serves you. There are a lot of other strategies you can use to move beyond feeling like a zero, but what I like about these is that they are like easy to implement. You can do it right now, even while you're wrapping up listening to this episode. And you can already boost yourself beyond and start lifting yourself up out of that feeling of a zero. I'd love to hear from you. I would love to know some of the tactics and strategies you use when you're kind of feeling a little lower in life. Okay. So I would love to hear what you do, other strategies and tactics that you have implemented that help lift you up when you're feeling a little less than a 10. Okay. Because guess what? I know that you are a 10. I know that that is within you. And sometimes we don't feel that way, and we just need to be reminded. Okay. So remember the four agreements, remember the achievements that you've done, that proof of and that evidence of what you are capable of, and then find those encouraging words to remind yourself that people think great things of you. You are not that one loud voice in your head. That is not who you are, and that does not define you. You are a 10, not a zero. Will you help me out? If this episode served you well, will you just head over and rate this 5 stars and drop a comment, a review? I would love to know, honestly, if this helped you. And then if you have any other advice, other people can see your advice and tips as well. And it's super helpful to others. I appreciate you, and thanks for sticking with me to the end of the episode. Until next time, go find your freedom.